is the Dr. Berg Show. Live from the nation's capital, it's time to get healthy, lose weight, and feel great. Call now to speak with Dr. Berg at 866-561-4292. And now, Dr. Eric Berg.
Hey guys, welcome back to the nation's capital. Actually, it's not quite the nation's capital. I'm about 6 miles south of the nation's capital in Virginia. So today we're going to answer your questions. In fact, every Friday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to answer your questions, excluding next week, okay? But every other week, we'll be here to answer your questions. So there's a lot of questions, and we're going to give you some answers. Hopefully I can answer them. So we actually have the first caller, John. So let's just go right into it. John, go ahead. You're on the air.
Good morning, Dr. Berg.
Good morning.
I have a question. At this point in my physical condition, I don't know whether to take a raw foods approach or the ketogenic diet. I had my original weight was 200, and I went up to 360, and then down to 220, and then this past year I just gained 65 pounds.
Whoa.
And then I just lost 25 pounds in 6 weeks. But I want to ask. I have two rare disorders and a liver disease. I have Gilbert's syndrome. Are you familiar with that?
A little bit. And a
The
thumbnail.
liver doesn't produce bilirubin,
Got
the
it.
bile pigment derived from the breakdown of the red blood cells.
Got it. Okay.
And I have beta thalassemia,
Okay.
which is the reduced production of hemoglobin,
Wow.
the iron-containing protein in red blood cells that carry oxygen.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm 47 now, and starting at 5 years old, I've been through a tremendous amount of trauma. So I think that my adrenals have been stuck on my whole life, and I had my tonsils out very young. And what has happened with the Derkham's disease? Are you familiar with that?
No, but we have a lot of questions, so if you could keep it really short, because I'm going to move right along here.
Yeah. So it's almost wrapped up. It's an accumulation of lipomas that are fat. They're in my whole body, and so I'm losing weight. I got the keto thing down. I'm in ketosis, but doesn't it make more sense to fix my gut flora and flush out the lymph system first before I get settled into the keto?
John, that's a really good question. So let's just kind of go right into it, okay? So first of all, I think most people, they don't put enough attention on the gut. So you have friendly microbes in your gut that actually make almost all of the B vitamins. So they make the B vitamins, they make lactic acid, they make a lot of factors that will help your liver. In fact, without the friendly bacteria, your liver suffers greatly. And especially even the recycling of bile. So what happens is that bile is 90% of it's recycled through the bowel. So you could imagine all the issues that you have. So I would highly recommend that. Now, there's friendly bacteria and there's unfriendly bacteria. So probably the quickest, the fastest way to get your flora back, your friendly bacteria, is to consume fermented vegetables. You can get 10 times more friendly bacteria from fermented or pickled vegetables than you can from probiotics, like taking in a supplement form. So I would definitely include that. You don't need a lot, like a couple teaspoons or per day of those pickled vegetables. And then I would also take something else called effective microbes. You can look it up online. It's like EM, effective microbes. That's like a symbiotic relationship between 400 friendly bacteria, yeast, fungus, and molds, which you need, because if you don't have one of those strains, you're going to end up with an overgrowth of fungus, a bad yeast, etc., or bacteria. So I would start doing that. In addition to that, I don't think there's going to be a problem on the ketogenic diet because it takes the stress off your liver, but the combination of that and probably adding some bile salts would really be beneficial. So thanks, John, for your question. So we're going right on to Bonnie. Bonnie, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
I'm new to this whole process, so
So am
one
I.
of my questions was I've been watching your tapes, and I heard that you're very interested in gardening, and I have a garden out in my yard, and I was wondering what could I do immediately to the soil to boost the nutrients, the potassium, the trace minerals in it.
Well, the biggest thing is not. I mean, there's so many things you can do with a trace mineral enhancement. A lot of times they'll replace the like 3 minerals in the soil. You want to get a trace mineral enhancement for your soil, but not only that. There's something called biochar. Look that up. Biochar. You want to put that in the soil. That's going to help the microbes, and then you want to add some microbes in there. And the microbes that I recommend is actually relates to the last question. There's something you can get effective microbes for the soil, not just for your body, but for the soil. Almost the same microbes that are in the soil are in your gut. So if you take it, and you can buy a very inexpensive, huge container of effective microbes, spray a little bit in your soil, and that'll start to build up those microbes. So your food is going to come out with enhanced nutrients, because it's really the microbes in the soil that help you break down the minerals to pull them into the plant, and then the minerals turn into vitamins from the conversion. So that's pretty much what I'd recommend. So
Where do you find those? Where do you tend to
do
find
do a
the
search.
biochar?
Do a search on biochar. You can get it anywhere. Do a search on effective microbes, and you'll find it. Okay. Thanks for your question. All right. So Alex, you're on the air. Alex, you had
Hey,
a
Dr.
question.
Berg, how are you, sir?
Good.
Great. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2010, and everything that I've read and heard about was to stay away from saturated fat as much as possible. And I've recently started, dabbling with the ketogenic diet based on a lot of things that you're saying and things that I've read. So I was wondering if you have any suggestions towards, for individuals who have multiple sclerosis and, that whole staying away from saturated fat and lots of red meat and things like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of false data on that, on saturated fats. The first thing you want to realize that your brain needs something to protect it and support it and repair the brain tissue from this autoimmune disorder called MS. One of the things that you can start doing is you can take something called it's a healthy fat, DHA, and DHA is a healthy fat. It's in sardines, it's in krill, it's in cod liver oil, and these healthy fats can regenerate brain tissue. Now, that's one thing, but the other thing is you want to decrease inflammation in the brain, because really what messes people up with MS is the inflammation that turns into scar tissue, and you develop a little plaquing. Two things. One is getting on a ketogenic diet. The ketogenic diet will give you ketones, which are the preferred fuel for the brain. It's more efficient. It's a cleaner fuel. It'll decrease stress in the brain. It decreases free radicals if you're into that. I mean, it will really support the brain. And the other thing is the enzyme called serrapeptase. It's from silkworms, and you can take it in an empty stomach. You want to take high dosages, like over 200,000 IUs on an empty stomach. I would take like 6 a day and spread them out. And then what will happen, that goes into the brain and helps clean up any scar tissue that shouldn't be there throughout the systemic circulation. So it doesn't go after your own protein. It goes after if there's any plaquing or fibrous tissue in the brain. And it's really good for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but it's also good for MS. So that's what I would recommend. But I think the ketogenic diet is going to be probably the best thing you can do. All right? All right, so we have in New York, someone has a question on the thyroid. It's called,
Hello?
yeah, hello. Hi, you're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Berg. Thank you so much for taking my call. I just have two questions. I have a Hashimoto disease, and I know that you sell a kelp supplement, and kelp has a lot of iodine in it. So I was wondering if it's okay to take iodine if you have Hashimoto, because I was told not to.
Yeah, good question. Let me answer that. So Hashimoto's responds best to the mineral called selenium, okay, and that is in the sea kelp. But it also responds to iodine because Hashimoto's is a hypothyroid problem. Now, when you have a hyperthyroid, which is Graves', that's when you want to avoid iodine. Okay, and you also want to avoid any type of gallbladder bile support or anything like that because that's going to increase the conversion and speed up the thyroid. We're trying to avoid that. But sea kelp is a natural sea vegetable mineral that will give you not just iodine, but it gives you selenium. So I would highly recommend doing a good quality sea kelp. The one I use is from Iceland, so it's very pure, it's non-polluted, it's organic, it's certified. So that's a good one. But if you can find a similar one, go for it. All right? Thanks for your question. All right, we have another question. Lisa in Pennsylvania.
Hey, Dr. Berg. Thanks
Hey.
for all your videos. They're fantastic.
Oh, my pleasure.
I've been attempting ketogenesis for about a year, and I only say attempting because I don't know for sure. I don't use the ketone strips and test my blood, so I don't know. But I have experienced a lot of benefit. But I've been doing diagnostics about every 3 months and had been working with a nutritionist. And one thing that has not remedied is that I'm not holding on to my vitamin A, vitamin D, my iron, my B12 looks okay. When I was supplementing, like it would go up a little bit, but my ferritin level is not good. It's below normal. And now that I went after 4 months, had another test, not supplementing at all, and all 3 of those were below normal.
Okay.
So I don't know what I'm doing, to either not retain it or not absorb it.
Okay, so let me just answer that, Lisa, and I just have to repeat the question. I just realized that we're on Facebook, and I'm not repeating my questions, so people are going, what was the question? So basically, you're on this ketogenic diet, and all of a sudden, your vitamin D levels are low, your vitamin A levels are low, your iron is low, you're not absorbing it. Okay, so there's one of 2 reasons. One is you don't have enough bile, B-I-L-E, in the liver and the gallbladder to be able to absorb these fat-soluble vitamins, okay? So that's one thing. So you probably have some type of sluggish gallbladder, so you would just need to add either a gallbladder formula or bile salts for that, okay? But if that's not the issue, then I would look to the stomach. It takes a very strong pH in your stomach, a very acidic stomach. And normally the stomach is between 1 and 3, which is highly acid. Very few people have that strong acid in the stomach. Without that, not only will you not be able to release your own bile from the gallbladder, but you're not going to absorb iron or minerals or calcium. So when you say you're deficient in vitamin A and vitamin D, I'm thinking bile, but when you add the iron in there, I'm thinking you need more acid for your stomach. And you can do that with betaine hydrochloride or apple cider vinegar to get that stomach really acid. If you have low stomach acids, you usually have kind of indigestion, heartburn, you can't digest proteins, you have mineral deficiencies, that type of thing, or indigestion. And so a lot of people have that chronically. And if you do, it takes a while to fix that. It doesn't just like fix overnight. So you might want to slowly add more acid, probably take, maybe take betaine hydrochloride, maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4 of those tablets before you eat with each meal over a period of weeks, and you'll start to notice more absorption in your minerals, more breakdown of fat-soluble vitamins because you'll make your own bile. All right? Hope that helps. Okay, so Dottie, Wisconsin, you have a question about migraines. First of all, what part of Wisconsin are you from, Dottie?
It's central Wisconsin.
Okay, I'm from Kenosha, Wisconsin originally, so I'm sure you've heard of that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Wow, yeah, Kenosha, that's south of us.
Yeah.
But
So,
thank you for the work you do. I just really appreciate all this.
my pleasure. So you have migraines?
Yeah, I had very severe migraines, and I got on the gallbladder formula, and it's been about 3 months, and I don't know if I'm taking it right. I started out with 1, and it took away the severity of them, and then I was still getting the minute migraines. So I was taking 1 before breakfast and after, and I don't know if I'm taking it right, but I know I'm on the right track with it, but I don't know if I'm taking it right.
Okay, great. So let me answer that question. So Dottie has migraines. In one of the other videos, I talk about the most common cause of being the gallbladder because there's a nerve that comes underneath the diaphragm on the right side that goes up into the head, which is called the phrenic nerve. And if the gallbladder is congested, it can create headaches. It refers pain. Most headache problems are not in your head. They're referred from somewhere else. And the way to really know that for sure is when you have a headache, just kind of press underneath your right rib cage, press, hold pressure. If it is your gallbladder, and you will just give that area some relief and the headache will turn off like that. If it's not your gallbladder, you won't feel any results. So in Dottie's case, yes, you want to take bile supports, but probably you want to start doing acupressure on the gallbladder and the opposite side on the pancreas, because the pancreas and gallbladder work together. The other thing that I would want to do, Dottie, is to see if there's anything else that you're eating that could be aggravating the gallbladder. I'm assuming if you're watching my videos, you're not doing refined grains and sugars. That's good. But probably the biggest problem, especially when you do a ketogenic diet, is you're just consuming too much fat, especially even nuts. So if you're doing too much peanut butter and nuts, try to cut that down and see if that doesn't completely get rid of your headache, okay? If that still doesn't work, then what I would recommend you do is that you basically get an allergy test, a food allergy test. And there's one that I kind of like. It's a hair analysis, and you ship it off, and they figure out your food allergies. But if there's a food allergy, that can also cause headaches. So thanks for your question. Now, the next question we have is Brenda, Tennessee. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
So you have some nerve issues, right?
Yes, I do. It's been about a year ago. I was sewing, and all of a sudden my back spasmed. But I didn't really pay attention to it too much. But it just gradually caused my elbow and clear down to my hand to go numb. And then I was in excruciating pain as if I'd hit that funny bone. Mm-hmm. So it would radiate from my funny bone down to my pinky. That's the most pain I've ever been in my life.
Right or left side?
The right side.
Okay.
I do have some pain in my left hand as well. But now the pain's gone now because I've been seeking chiropractic help. Sorry, I'm hearing that. I can't. I've cut out grains and sugar and eaten good fats, and so I'm trying to see what else I can do. I'm just kind of.
So do you still have pain or not?
Occasionally, I have pain.
Okay, in the
but
right.
I can tell it swells up.
In the right side, right? Your right elbow mostly, or down to your hand?
It's actually down in my pinky, from my wrist down to the inside of my ring finger.
Okay, great. That's a really good question, a common thing. You know, when I do demonstrations and seminars, so many people have this right hand, they're in splints, and they got elbow stuff, they got pain on the referred. And the most typical thing is to go to the chiropractor and they give you an adjustment in your neck and you get better. Honestly, I've been doing that for a long, long time, and it keeps coming back. Okay, so there's two things that I found that are deeper, that are underneath it, and believe it or not, it's the gallbladder. And it's just a hidden source of congestion that will refer pain to this nerve that goes up to your neck that will literally cause a spasm in your upper back. There's a muscle in your upper back, in the upper trap. It's a tiny muscle called the levator anguli scapula muscle. That little thing connects to your third vertebra and then your scapula, and it actually gets tight and it pulls that vertebra to the right, keeps pinching the nerve that goes right down here. So what you have to do is you have to do a combination of manual massage therapy on your gallbladder and the pancreas. I have videos on that. You can look it up. Just look up Dr. Berg, right shoulder pain, but it's also good for pain that goes into the hand. And you start massaging that area, you'll see some amazing results. Of course, you want to clean up your diet as well, but inevitably, if you want to try and experiment, if you have the pain, like right now, press on the gallbladder. If it's a gallbladder, it'll go away like that. It won't take a long time. It'll instantly go away. And it surprises people because they don't realize, they don't connect the dots. Okay, so yeah, check that out. See if it helps you, and then let me know. Okay, so Beth, you're from Florida. You're on the air. You have a gallbladder question. Beth, are you there? Okay, so Beth is Okay, so we have another question. Isabel from Florida about your daughter.
Yes, hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
Thank you for holding these questions. My daughter has been having what is being termed as sleep paralysis, and she finds herself just like not being able to move completely. She's under a lot of stress, of course, and she's a college student. In addition to that, the paralysis has sort of stopped, but her body tends to twitch at nighttime. Her mind is going. So I know it's an adrenal issue, and I've given her the massage tool to help her sleep because she's not able to sleep. Is there anything else that I can do in addition to giving her the vitamins and the minerals and so forth that you recommend?
Okay, great. All right, so here's a question. Daughter has sleeping problems. There's twitching. And there's a couple other symptoms. You know, what happens in these situations when you get a couple symptoms, it's good to get a full evaluation. So that question, you're probably going to call my office, have one of my health coaches go through all the history, because in order to evaluate, you need as much data as possible. But just from just from what you told me, anytime you have twitches, there's a mineral deficiency. And also, if you can't sleep and there's excessive racing in the mind, I'm going to look at vitamin B1 deficiency, because vitamin B1, if you don't have enough, you're going to have excessive thinking 24/7. You will not be able to turn it off, and it'll actually keep you up because there's so much noise. There's like a party in your head. So the best source of that would be nutritional yeast. Just take a tablespoon and start consuming that. So many young kids nowadays, and adults, are deficient in B1 because they're consuming refined grains and refined sugars. That's what creates that. So the breads, the pasta, the cereal, crackers, it pulls out B1. And then you get this nervous energy build up. You can't relax. And it's definitely a mental buildup of stress. So when you give someone a natural form of B1, it's almost like it's like a chill pill. They feel calm, they feel relaxed, and it's also really good for sleeping. You will not be able to sleep if you're deficient in B1. You'll be restless. So I would be looking at two things. One is B1, and then the other thing is potassium, which is another thing that you want to get from the vegetables, because very few people get enough vegetables when they're eating. All right, so next question. Steve from New York, you have a diet question. Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
I personally turned obese probably around age 3 to 4, under a lot of stress in family, etc. I'm aware that many people don't immediately start having and maintaining weight. Why do some people have more of a proclivity than others? If we're just dealing with the pure reality of insulin resistance and cortisol resistance, why do some get this and some not?
Okay. So I have a question. Let me just repeat it because I have a question for you. Just for the Facebook people, Steve is asking a question. Why would someone gain weight when they're very, very young, let's say 2 years old, 3 years old, when maybe they might not have insulin resistance or anything like that? Is that the question, Steve?
That's part of it. I always had that weight until I turned 19, and I actually did fasting, and I lost 40 pounds within 2 months.
Wow. So Steve,
other than that,
Steve, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Exactly at
Yes.
what age did you start gaining weight? Was it at 2 or 3?
No, I would say it was more like 5.
Okay. So now, Steve, I have a question. When you were at 5 years old, was there anything else that happened, like infections, throat, mono, asthma, anything respiratory, any infections?
I actually had a fever and some sort of boiler abscess when I was within the first 3 weeks of my birth. The only thing that happened around 5 was family stress.
Okay.
My father and my mother.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. So Steve basically said there was a fever when he was first born, an abscess, but before 5, there was a stress. All right, so I had this one lady come in. She's tried everything to lose weight. Triathlons, starvation, 500 calories. It doesn't matter what she eats. She cannot lose even a pound. And this all happened when she was, actually, I think it was 4. So I said, what happened just before that? Because there's always some trigger. So I found out she had her tonsils removed, and it was actually very traumatic. So again, when you go through surgery or have an infection, a lot of times that sets up an adrenal stress because the adrenal controls the immune system. So Steve was mentioning stress. So I'm gonna probably, the most obvious thing, Steve, it's a stress, it's a spike in cortisol. When you spike cortisol, you actually can interfere with all the fat-burning hormones. Cortisol is one of the most dominating fat-making hormone. It prevents all 6 fat-burning hormones. So it's a fat-making hormone. So that's probably what happened. And then ever since that point, you were able to, you just kept the weight up. So there's a shift in metabolism because there's a hormone change from stress. So it can happen from infection or basically just stress in general. One of the biggest stresses that people have that I noticed is losses, threat of losses, that type of thing. And so it's almost like worse than a physical trauma. There's even some studies, if you look under the immune system and neutrophils in relationship to losses, the loss of a loved one. It's a huge stress on your immune system, primarily because the adrenal shut down. And that's probably why so many people get autoimmune diseases right after that type of stress, which is a loss. Okay? So that's probably what caused it. So again, right now, what I would do is I would do things to support the adrenal. That's what I would focus on more than the weight loss. So that way you can hopefully improve something. Okay, so we have a question. Jackie from Florida, you're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi, Jackie.
I have a question, but I wanted to give you just a quick synopsis, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 53 years old. I always had a great, my body was, I'm going to say perfect, but I had control of my weight. But menopause hit, and now there's so much information out there about what to do to lose weight. And I took your test. I'm the adrenal type. And are you familiar with a concept called carb cycling?
Yeah.
And I was just wondering what your thoughts were about the carb cycling.
Great. Okay, Jackie. So here's a question from Jackie. She's, I think, 51, menopausal, a lot of adrenal symptoms. So she had a question on carb, because you hear so much data on different diets, carb cycling, where you would rotate. Maybe you would do the low carb and then you add carbs back and forth. Okay, so this is my opinion. First of all, I can't find any solid research that shows it improves anything. Secondly, it goes against all the physiology books to carb cycle. To somehow think that you need to replenish your carbohydrates, like why? Well, we're trying to get rid of excessive carbohydrates. Your body will convert dietary protein and fat into the carbohydrates that it needs, the glycogen reserve. It has the ability to do that. For us to somehow think that we need to take some dietary carbs, there is no requirement for carbohydrates other than the vitamins in certain carbohydrates. So there's no essential carbohydrate that we need. So what happens when you carb cycle, all you're doing is you're bumping yourself out of fat burning for a period of time. So I disagree with carb cycling. I think it's going to create a problem. And I have not seen any research on that at all. It just kind of will slow you down. And also, it's funny because sometimes people do these diets that well, Dr. Berg, when do I have my cheat day? I'm like, I'm sorry, where did you get that from? We all need a cheat day? I mean, what you could do is you could have a healthy junk food type brownie, whatever, and that could be your cheat when it's just no carbs. But to have a cheat day, it's just going to set you back. I mean, a small amount of carbohydrates. You take a glass of juice, half a glass of juice, half a glass of wine. That's enough carbohydrates to bump someone out of fat burning for 72 plus hours if your metabolism is slow. So this kind of goes beyond calories, and it talks about hormones. So I'm sorry, but that's just what happens. And the reason for that is that it takes a while to get into ketosis, to get your body to adapt. It's easy to pop out of it, and then it takes a while to get back into that state of ketosis, which is fat burning. All right, so we have a question from Josh, Switzerland. You have a question on protein in diet. Go ahead, Josh.
Hi, Dr. Berg. This is George from Switzerland. So my question is, in your videos you say on a ketogenic diet, the protein amount per meal is about 3 and 6 ounces. To me it sounds a lot because that's like 80 to 150 grams per meal. On the other hand, in one video you say, don't go over 0.8 or 1 gram per kilogram body weight. So this is like 3 to 6 times less than your first recommendation.
Right. Okay.
And then I'm down from 220 pounds now to 170 with a ketogenic diet.
Wow.
And before I watched your videos, I didn't even know that this exists. And now I'm really slim and I want to gain muscle. So can you do your call on how much protein to gain some muscle? Not really a bodybuilder, but some like 5 kilo or 10 kilo more muscle mass to burn more calories in the idle mode.
Sure. Okay. So Josh had a question, and basically there's a confusion on how much protein you need. Some of the recommendations that even I recommend, it seems like it was too much. So we're going to talk about that. And then the other question is relating to now he lost so much weight. Now how do we gain some weight, more muscle, not fat? Okay. So the first question relates to how much protein. I recommend 3 to 6 ounces. But if we take a look at an ounce, what we have to realize that an ounce of an egg or an ounce of meat is not necessarily 100% protein. So when I'm talking about ounces, when you have the complete food, we have always a portion of protein, amino acids, and then there's a portion of fat and even maybe some carbs in some foods. So one egg is about 7 grams of protein, okay? So 3 ounces roughly is about 21 grams to 24 grams of protein. So if you're doing 3 ounces, okay, that's let's just say it's 23 grams of protein on average, okay? So that's not too much. I mean, even the USDA, they recommend a lot more protein. So if you stick with 3 ounces, it's 23 grams, that's not that much. So if you do 6 ounces, that's 46 grams of protein. So maybe you're calculating the ounces into a pure protein, like a protein powder. I'm talking about an actual food base. So 3 ounces, I mean, honestly, you want to adjust your proteins based on your stress level. And some people need a little bit more. Some people need a little bit less. Some days I'll go with, I'll feel like I need a little more protein, so I'll go more 6. Some meals I stay with 3. But typically, I want you to cut it right down the middle and do 4 ounces of protein with each meal. Sometimes I don't even have any protein. So it's really one of those wild variables that you have to test in yourself to see what works. But that's kind of the overall range. But 23 grams of protein, that's not too much. Now, let's switch gears to weight gain. How do you gain weight without gaining actual fat? Of course, the ketogenic diet, especially for a guy body, they don't have as much estrogen, so you're going to put them in some fat burning. They're going to lose a lot of weight, get really, really lean, and then they want to rebound and come back up. You don't necessarily want to stick the carbs back in. You do want to maintain maybe a little bit more protein, a little bit more fat, but don't go to 2 meals, go to 3 meals. Keep your vegetables high. But if you want to gain that weight, you're going to have to do heavier, more intense type weight training. Compound resistance, that's the best thing. Not necessarily high intensity interval training, which will help, but you got to do physical weight training to actually build that muscle and make it get bigger over time. So you want to start doing heavier weights and do it gradually to start adding more actual muscle, because it's going to take some physical work to do that. And then you're going to probably hit a plateau, and then you want to actually spike it up some more. But here's kind of there's two little secrets that I want to tell you right now related to getting a more lean body mass and enhancing your muscles that I've seen with clients. That basically taught me. One guy was he was in the Olympics, and he was a patient. He didn't take the Olympics, but he was a very, very high-end, knowledgeable guy about fitness training. And he told me at the Olympic level, they apparently in Colorado, they have their training center. They train different than the lower levels. They have a huge recovery program. They spend time in the jacuzzi. They emphasize sleep. They emphasize recovering versus pushing. So one very, very important that's mostly underrated would be getting the high quality of sleep. Do what you can to improve that sleep, whether it's taking extra naps, whether it's enhancing nutrition for your sleep, whether it's extracting stress. You need to get more sleep, and even up to 9 hours. What'll happen, more sleep will actually lower cortisol, it'll enhance growth hormone, and you will find a way better muscle recovery than if you don't get sleep. The guys that do the hardcore, intense exercise and they don't get enough recovery, they don't get enough sleep, they never seem to grow their muscles that well. So it's kind of ironic that you would have to do nothing to get more muscle, but that's really what you do is you get more sleep. And then the second little secret is to enhance the digestion, your friendly microbes. So take a very high quality probiotic. Some people detox on that, but I noticed that if you have a good gut and the ability to digest protein correctly and digest your food, your muscle structure will be way better than if you have a gut problem. So people like, well, what do I do? I'm trying to gain muscle. I'm trying to get more lean body mass when they have constipation or they have acid reflux or they have digestive problems. I wouldn't focus on the muscle. Fix the digestion. Okay? All right. So let's see here. We have a question. Let's take Hillary from Maryland. Hi, Hillary. You're on the air.
Hi, Dr. Berg. I've really enjoyed your videos. Thank you for taking my call. I guess my main question that I had in general, I have one other quick question after this, but my main question is I've seen your videos about, the ketosis diet, and I've actually been following your tips and have lost about 10 pounds. And the thing is, I want to remain on this until I lose my weight, but my question was, I've seen your videos with your wife making your recipes, and I even tried doing some of that, but I kind of get the impression that you kind of live on this ketosis diet all the time, and I guess I'm wondering, in the very first video I saw that you made, that I saw, you talked about how your body resets, and I'm wondering if I get back down to my desired weight and I give it enough time where my body resets, can I ever go back to eating what I call kind of like a normal person? I'm not talking about overeating and eating a bunch of sweets, but I mean, can I go back to eating like a sandwich with real bread, or is this something that like you just can never ever do? I mean, I know I won't lose weight, or maybe it will impede weight loss, but if I'm at the weight I want to be and I don't overdo it, I won't gain it either, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, is this something I have to live with for the rest of my life?
No, that's a really good question, Hillary. So just to repeat that for the Facebook people, number one, Hillary is, she's losing some weight. I think she lost 10 pounds. She's doing better. But the question is, like, do I have to do this my entire life? Could I go off the program, even temporarily, to have a sandwich every so often? Is that going to interfere? Am I going to have to live like this the rest of my life? Okay. Common question. Well, here's the thing. It really depends on your metabolism. Most people that I run across don't have healthy metabolisms. And so they're overweight. And their state of health is in a kind of a danger trend, because if they keep going, they're going to get worse, right? So we're basically bringing you out of that danger trend into a higher state of health. And where you have a health reserve, you take someone who's very, very sickly and they have all this inflammation and they're like, when could I have my cheat day? I'm like, you're not even qualifying for a cheat day yet. You haven't even reached a level where you have any reserve. So we have to bring you out of the danger zone into an area where you can have a reserve of health. And what I mean by that is you have so much health, a temporary going off the program is not going to influence you at all. But when you're that low, you really can't afford to cheat. For example, myself, I mean, I could go off the program for a period of time. It wouldn't really affect me because I've been putting so many good things into my body. I don't, just because I feel so good. I don't need to do that. But yes, so when you get to a point where you hit your weight and you hit your health, your metabolism is better because you fixed insulin, yeah, now you have the flexibility to go off the program. And this is a really good point because that I want to bring up because I don't want to tell you you can't have anything. I don't want to deprive you. In fact, that anytime you tell people you can't have something, they're going to want it more. What I want to do is I just want to give you the knowledge so you can consciously lose weight or gain weight with full cognitive function. So you're not in this blind thing where you're just following a diet. So in other words, if I wanted to, I don't know, punch that wall, okay? I mean, go ahead and punch the wall. If you want to punch the wall and you're going to break your hands, but at least when you do it, just realize, just say I'm willing to break my knuckles, right? So if you're willing to eat a sandwich, and let's say it's going to stop your fat burning for a day, as long as you're okay with that, go for it. But if you have the knowledge that you know what you're doing, if you want to drink some alcohol and know, okay, I want you to go into this with full awareness where, hey, I'm going to eat a huge thing of popcorn or I'm going to drink some wine. I know it's going to mess me up for a day. And then you make up the damage the next day and you get back to where you were. So that way you're not blindly following a diet. I want to put you more in control of your body so you know how to fix it or destroy it at will. Okay? So, and then I give a lot of recipes out for people that want to feel like they're cheating, but they're not really cheating. And that's why I create this. So that was a good question. All right. So Winston, you're from Virginia. How you doing, Winston?
Yes, Norfolk, Virginia.
What part of Virginia?
Norfolk.
Oh, Norfolk. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. What's your question?
My question is, how can I control balance and dizziness related to the 43 pounds that I've lost in 7 months on the ketogenic diet?
What was the first part of your question? I missed it.
How can I control the balance problems and dizziness related to my weight loss?
Oh, balance problems.
Yes.
Okay. So you have, so now your balance is off?
Yes. For example, if I make any quick movement, I'm subject to fall if I can't balance myself.
Okay. All right. So.
And I've lost 43 pounds within the last 7 months on the ketogenic diet.
Okay. All right. So here's a good question from Winston. He lost 47 pounds in 7 months, which I think is pretty good. But now he has balance problems, right? He gets up, it's like, whoa. So, I mean, it almost sounds like a vertigo. There's two things I would look at. Number one, if you get up too fast and you feel dizzy, that is an adrenal issue. So a lot of times when you fix one problem, another problem pops up that you maybe didn't know you had. I didn't know if this is a new problem or it was an existing problem, but the point is that if you stand up, normally the blood pressure, the systolic should go up by 6 points, okay? So here's an experiment. Winston, you could take your blood pressure, lying down, and then take your blood pressure standing up. That top number, it's called systolic, should go up by 6 points, 6 to 10. If it does not go up, let's say it goes down or it stays the same, then we know the adrenals are not adapting to that positional change. So your adrenals are weak. Then you need to support the adrenals. And I have a ton of videos on that. So you get up and you're like, whoa, you feel, or you go up incline and your legs feel heavier. That's an inability to adapt to gravity, sudden gravity changes. Okay, so that's one thing. If that's not the problem, if you're just sitting there and you get disoriented, then that's a problem in the inner ear. There's some type of problem, either a mucus that is in the inner ear of the eustachian tube that's interfering with the positional change, or it's a calcium buildup. And then I have a video on that. There's oregano and garlic that you can take if it's a mucus for the inner ear, or if it's a calcium deposit, you can take vitamin K2 to pull out that calcium. So those are two quick things. So again, it's like one of those things that I could, if we sat down 15 minutes and go back and forth to get all the data, we could figure that out. But that would just be my suggestion on what's going on. So thank you so much for that question. Okay, so now we have someone from Palestine. It's Caesar. You're on the air.
Hello, hello. How are you doing, doctor?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm a bodybuilder with a friend of mine. She's a girl. And we keep watching several videos and research online. And I found a video for you speaking about the myths of eating around workout time. And in that video you just mentioned that it's for ordinary people, not for bodybuilders. So that's the issue I'm looking to know more about, eating around workout time.
Yeah. Okay. Good
for
question.
Enhancing muscle mass, in fact.
Good. Okay, so our caller is asking a question. He's a bodybuilder, and the question is, what about eating around workout time? Give me some more data on that. And before I answer the question, I want to say if you have a call, you can call in right now. And here's the number, write this down, 866-561-4292. Okay, 866-561-4292. Okay, so now the question is, you're a bodybuilder. We're being taught to eat because we have to replenish that glycogen reserve, that sugar reserve that we're losing when we're working out. No, you don't want to do that. You do not want to eat when you work out. Unless you're doing long distance running and you're sweating and you're losing like everything, typically a moderate exercise or a light workout, you do not want to do that. So what happens when you eat around your workout, here you are, you're stimulating all these fat-burning hormones, right? You're stimulating the hormones, and you're in the fat burning. So now we're going to eat. We're going to spike insulin. Every time you eat, you stimulate insulin, okay? When you increase insulin, you nullify the benefits of the exercise because insulin blocks growth hormone. Insulin blocks all 6 fat-burning hormones. So really, if you don't eat around that workout, your performance, your efficiency, your results of that exercise is going to be way, way, way better than if you eat. Now, as far as the glycogen reserve, what we want to do is we want to force you to burn up your stored sugar, your glycogen in your liver and your muscles, so that way we can then have your body go into the fat reserves and use that as your primary fuel source. But if you're not used to this, and you haven't really got yourself into a state where you're in fat burning, then you might have to do this over a period of time gradually to adapt to fat burning because you can't just go from sugar burning and then to fat burning like that overnight and not like feel kind of funky because you're so used to those snacks and sugars. So you have to do it gradually, but it's much better to improve your muscle if you don't snack when you eat. When you work out. Okay? All right, so Danielle, you're from Canada. Go ahead. What's your question? Danielle.
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Berg.
Hi.
So I'm 45, and I have had PCOS since I was 26. I have high insulin, and I'm obese. And I've had, because of, I think, the high insulin, I ended up with a 15-centimeter cyst on my adrenal gland and a 6-centimeter cyst on my thyroid, which they took out. And I'm on a lot of calcium, so 2,000 milligrams a day. And I want to know, what can I do to get my insulin down and start actually getting some weight off? And
Great.
What program would be best? What foods to avoid?
Good. So Daniel, I have a question. So Daniel had a question. Overweight, polycystic ovarian syndrome, high insulin. She also has a large cyst on the adrenal and the thyroid, and she's taking a lot of calcium. So the question I have for you, Daniel, why are they having you take so much calcium?
So something happened in the surgery to my parathyroid, and it didn't wake up. So now they feel like it's awake, and that is why they have me taking so much calcium, because my calcium it wasn't even existent once I came out of the surgery.
So when they did the surgery, so she just said because apparently they found a problem with the parathyroid gland right next to the thyroid, and that controls calcium. That's why they're telling her to take more calcium. But what kind of surgery do they do? A thyroidectomy?
Yes.
So they took out the thyroid
Yeah.
because they found a problem with the cyst was malignant, or why did they take it out?
So I had a 6 centimeter cyst on the left side, and it was kind of impeding onto the esophagus area.
Okay.
And they just thought it shouldn't be there. It's going to impose on something, so they took it out. But on the right side, they found 2 nodules, and one of them was cancer. But I didn't have to have any treatment.
Okay.
They got everything there.
Okay, so let me just give you some advice on that. So she just wanted to clarify, it was getting a little bit bigger, found some cancer or potential cancer, and so they just removed the thyroid. Okay, here's the thing. Anytime you have cysts in the body, whether it's on the ovary, the adrenal, in the back of your leg, and the thyroid, usually that is an estrogen problem that can be corrected by taking iodine, and I like sea kelp. So iodine lowers estrogen and helps regulate the harmful estrogen in the body. Now, what causes PCOS is the high levels of androgen that's coming from the high levels of insulin. Now, when you look up polycystic ovarian syndrome, they always say that high insulin is associated with PCOS. No, it's not. High insulin is causing PCOS because high insulin can convert to androgens. It's a male hormone, and that creates weight gain, hair loss, facial hair, deep voice, and a lot of other adrenal problems. So what you have to do, Danelle, is you have to fix the insulin problem to fix everything. And the way you do that is, I have a lot of videos on insulin resistance, but number one, make sure that you only consume 3, maybe even 2 meals a day with no snacks in between. I don't even care how big those meals are. Make sure that you don't snack and have small meals through the day. That's number one. That will actually start to lower insulin because because every time you eat, you increase insulin. So we want to decrease insulin and let the body heal. Secondly, of course, you want to do the obvious things, cutting out sugars and breads and pastas and cereal, crackers, things like that. Okay. The other thing is there's 3 or 4 things that are hidden that you can also fix prediabetes or fix insulin by adding more potassium. Yes, you need a lot of vegetables, but it's okay to take it from a supplement too. Take potassium citrate in higher quantities. And what will happen, that will actually help lower insulin. Potassium lowers insulin, okay? Also, chromium is the other mineral that lowers insulin. The B vitamins will lower insulin. So those are the things that you really want to do. And I would just search out that video that I have online that I show you what to eat. And so you can actually, to go through a lot more details, but you need a lot of vegetables, small amount of protein, a little bit more fat. You need sea kelp big time, and I would take some potassium. I think that's going to lower your insulin and help you with the PCOS. But now that you don't have a thyroid, you're kind of going to have to cope with that as well. But I think out of all the things that are wrong with a person, or that could go wrong, that would be the least problematic because, I mean, you can live comfortably without a thyroid compared to you can't live without adrenal. You need the adrenal. So that would be the quick tip, okay? I hope that helped. All right, so Wendy, you're from Florida. You had a question on...
Hey, Dr. Berg.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Great. You had a question on getting off
question
HRT.
That's right. I've been following your plan for about 5 months. I've lost 31 pounds. I'm doing fantastic. I've got a fan club now. It's so funny. But my big question is, I've reduced the amount of estrogen that the doctors put me on about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm 51 now. About 48, I had to get on it. And I'd like to get off. I'm on progesterone and a little bit of estradiol. And I'm just kind of afraid because I was sort of crazy when I was needing to be on those earlier. So I'm just wondering what you recommend as far as getting off the synthetic HRT.
Okay, so Wendy had a question. She wants to get off this HRT. Again, all these recommendations that I'm making, check with your doctor first because I can't legally tell you to come off any medication. But here's my opinion. How old are you, Wendy?
I'm 51.
51, okay. All right, so let me answer that question. So HRT, hormone replacement therapy, it causes side effects if you're on it long term. But of course, a lot of women take it because if they don't, It really affects their emotions and things like that. When you go through menopause, and this is very fascinating, and this is always a question, and I always would like you to ask your doctor, okay? I'm 51, I don't have enough estrogen. Like what happens at 51 that I would need to take estrogen? During menopause, your adrenals back up the ovaries. They're the backup organ. They produce the same hormones as the ovaries. If you have any type of symptoms, postmenopausal or menopausal, or even premenopausal related to estrogen, we know the problem really is the adrenals are not putting out enough estrogen. That's all that means. So why don't we just support the adrenal? So that's what I would recommend is to, and I have a lot of data, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but you can watch the videos on that. Support the adrenal, build that up, because you're not going to have babies when you're in your 50s. Typically, you might, but probably not. And what happens is you were not designed to have that much estrogen. So we can get by with the less. But if the adrenals are weak going into menopause, it's exaggerated. So if you support the adrenal gland itself, then we don't have to take any individual type of hormone, because you support the whole gland. The adrenal makes 30 different hormones. So that'll actually provide the whole ball of wax. I guess a product that would be good for you is called the cortisol support. That would be probably the most powerful thing for menopause if you have estrogen problems, especially deficiencies. And that will kind of help you make the transition. So you build your adrenals up, so then you're not dependent on HRT. HRT after 7 years, it increases chance for stroke, heart attack, blood clots, cancer. Other than that, it's perfectly fine. Okay? All right, thanks for calling, Wendy. All right, so Sandy, you're from Maryland, right down the street. You have a question about your central nervous system.
Okay, so I have been dealing with a rapid heart rate for about the past 2 months. I had went to the doctor, did all the tests. They said, oh, it's not your heart. And they tested hormones. They're like, well, you're not hypoglycemic. Tested the thyroid, the adrenals. They're like, it's not that. So we're thinking it's my central nervous system. Do you have any suggestions about how to approach this issue?
Great question. Sandy had a question. She has this high heart rate that just, there's nothing else showing up. It's part of the central nervous system. They don't know what to do. She's trying to figure it out. So let's just talk about what would cause a high pulse rate or a high heart rate. The heart is controlled, yes, by the nervous system, primarily the autonomic nervous system. But the thing that pops to my mind when you have a high pulse rate is what's called hypokalemia, which is basically low potassium. Low potassium causes the pulse rate to go higher and higher and higher and higher. So the simple thing to do, and it's really hard to test this, Sandy, because when you check your blood for potassium, it might not show up because most of the potassium, 98%, is inside the cell. It's not in the blood. So for it to show up, you have to be so deficient. If you really want to find it, you can do like an intracellular potassium test. But a better and cheaper way to do this is start taking some potassium citrate. Start taking more potassium. And your pulse rate should come down. And the way to really correct it is to start increasing your vegetables. You need about 7 to 10 cups of salad. Now, that might freak you out because that might be way too much. But you'll start building up your potassium reserve. And your pulse rate will start coming down because you'll start supporting the nervous system. This is one of those things that it won't show up in a blood test. It's subclinical, but it's a problem. It's usually a potassium deficiency, and that's what it is. So, okay, Craig, you're in Colorado. You have a question.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking the call. I have a calc score of 100 and been told pre-diabetic and started keto. Started basically at 170 pounds and down to 160.
Wow.
Wondering about Dr. Berg's greens and other supplements. Do these count as part of the fast? And because I've found that the Dr. Greens really fill me up nicely, and I can go all day until I'm ready to actually eat.
Right.
So I thought I'd see about that. And then also, is there any way to help reduce calc scores?
Calc scores. You talking about
calcium. calcium heart scan scores.
Okay,
Sorry.
great. So Craig had a question. He lost weight. He's doing a ketogenic diet. He's doing good. His calcium score in his circulation is too high. So, and that's a really good question. And this is going to be the last question. But and I'm going to do this not next Friday, but the following Friday. So stay tuned. I'll send you a reminder. But here's the thing. He mentioned also about greens. What about migraines? Would that be a substitute? I have a wheatgrass juice powder that is meant for an enhancement, not necessarily a substitute, even though you're getting a lot. But that just gives you a huge boost. But it's not. I would not use it as a substitute for the actual vegetables. You really need the vegetables. Second question is how to get rid of the calcium scores, the buildup. Very simple. You take vitamin D3 and K2. Vitamin K2 will strip out calcium from the arteries. Vitamin K2. But you need it with vitamin D3 together. So watch that video I have on there, because I have one on K2 and D3, and that will pull out the calcium. Do some research on K2. This is Dr. Berg signing off. Thank you guys so much for your questions. They were great. I will see you in a couple weeks on Friday at 9 o'clock. Thanks for watching.